Are we for the Second Amendment or not?
Remember, we fight for what's right because it's time to go right.
This is not left versus right. This is liberty versus power. When the Constitution gets uncomfortable, that's when it matters most. Are we for the Second Amendment, or only when it's convenient? Rights are not privileges! Freedom is not conditional! If liberty only fits your side, then liberty is already gone! This is Go Right with Peter Boykin! Constitutionalist for liberty!
Are we for the Second Amendment or not? The Alex Pretti shooting is a constitutional Rubicon. This is hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. Most of us who care about freedom haven't felt this conflicted on the right in a long time. Watching the aftermath of the shooting of Alex Jeffrey Pretti in Minneapolis, it's clear the country is staring down a constitutional crossroads that goes far beyond one tragic encounter. And I know a lot of new information has came out, but what we do know is that Alex Jeffrey Pretti, a 77-year-old Minneapolis ICU nurse and American citizen, was the person who was fatally shot by Border Patrol, according to his union and family sources. Federal officials saw and say Pretti approached Border Patrol agents while armed with a 9mm pistol and violently resisted when they attempted to disarm him, prompting an agent to fire defensive shots. State officials confirmed Pretti had a lawful permit to carry. His union says the viral video of the shooting does not clearly show him brandishing a weapon right before he was attacked. At the time of the shooting, federal officials were targeting Jose Gilberto Chumba, an illegal immigrant with a criminal history including domestic assault for intentional infliction of bodily harm, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid driver's license. And here's what we know from multiple outlets. Pretti was shot and killed during a federal immigration enforcement operation. Videos show Pretti in the street near the federal agents. Some widely cited analysis suggests he was filming with his phone. It was not clearly brandishing a weapon immediately before he was tackled and shot. Pretti was legally licensed to carry. Federal officials say he was armed, but available video of the moments before the shooting shows a phone in his hand, not a weapon. And I know there's a lot more information that's been out and coming out, so this data might change. We do see that he did have some run-ins previously where he kicked the back of a car, and there was other videos coming in. I'm not saying this guy was a great guy, but he did have a weapon. He had a legal weapon. It was a bad decision for him to be there. We might say that. But we have to go with the facts that we have. Now, this is not an isolated moment. It was the third violent incident in a short span involving federal immigration agents in Minneapolis. It followed the fatal shooting of Renee Good later in the month, or actually earlier in the month, and another incident where a man was wounded. Now I'm going to tell you, I support ICE. I support the operations they're doing. But we have to take pause and we have to find out what exactly is going on. Now let's look and get into the part that matters most of us as constitutional conservatives and freedom lovers. You and I believe in the Second Amendment. We believe citizens have the right to keep and bear arms and defend themselves and their communities. We believe in personal responsibility and lawful gun ownership. And yet, when a man is legally carrying and ends up being shot by authorities, some so-called of my fellow Republicans and conservatives wave it away, claiming that merely possessing a loaded firearm is justification for lethal force. That's not a conservative position. That is actually a contradiction. Now let's be crystal clear. Being a lawful gun owner with a permit is not a justification for being shot. If Pretti pulled his gun on federal agents, that would be a different legal analysis. If he reached for it, that changes the equation. But if he was simply lawfully armed, even verbally confrontational, even resisting without posing a clear lethal threat, then serious questions must be asked about force proportionally, federal authority, due process, and his constitutional rights. We have been here before. Not long ago, this country tore itself apart over Kyle Rittenhouse. I know it's not exactly a good comparison, but it's one that a lot of people have been using. He was a teenager who showed up during the unrest in Kenosha carrying a rifle. Now, they say he was hired to protect the business, but he still had a rifle in hand to protect that business during a riot, a loaded one. He ended up shooting 3 people. It was to protect himself in self-defense. 2 died, 1 survived, and the nation split into tribes overnight. What did many on the right argue then? That lawful possession of a firearm is not a crime, that context matters, that self-defense must be judged by actions, not optics. And a jury agreed and acquitted him. So here comes the uncomfortable comparison. If Rittenhouse's lawful possession of a firearm did not negate his right to self-defense under the law, how does Pretti's lawful possession suddenly become justification for his death without trial, without due process, and without clarity? You cannot celebrate the Second Amendment in Kenosha and dismiss it in Minneapolis. You cannot defend armed self-defense when it fits your narrative and abandon it when the actor makes you uncomfortable. That is not constitutional consistency. That is selective liberty. Right now, we see 2 Americans shot within weeks by federal agents in one sitting. There are protests, national media scrutiny, conflicting videos, and sharply different accounts of what happened in the critical seconds before shots were fired. Governors, civil liberty groups, and national leaders are weighing in, and calls for investigations and oversight are growing. Now, what frustrates me is not disagreement. It is watching people on the right pretend to stand for freedom while hollowing it out when it becomes inconvenient. You cannot be pro-Second Amendment one day and treat lawful gun ownership as provocation the next. That is not a principle. That is opportunism. Many of us remember earlier flashpoints when police shootings fractured the country and sparked bitter debates about power, accountability, and rights. That era was chaotic and painful. Now we're staring into a similar mirror. But this time, the armed authority is federal immigration enforcement. The real question is not simply who is right or wrong in the single incident. The real question is what we stand for when the government itself is one of the actors in the dispute. If we defend the Second Amendment only for people we agree with, then we are not defending principles. We are defending personalities. Rights do not exist to flatter us. They exist to restrain power. This is not just about Minnesota. It is not just about one man, one agency, or one unfolding investigation. This is about whether the right still means what it says, or whether freedom has become conditional, situational, and selectively applied. Because if freedom only matters until someone you dislike exercises it, then freedom is already gone. This is Peter Boykin, and this is hashtag GoRight. You can check us out on GoRightNews.com, PeterBoykin.com, and GoRightNC.com.
Are we for the Second Amendment or not? Because the answer matters when the government pulls the trigger. This is Go Right with Peter Boykin. Most of us who care about freedom haven't felt this divided in a long time. A lawful citizen, a permitted firearm, federal agents, and a split second that changed everything. Alex Jeffrey Pretti, American citizen, legally armed, shot during a federal operation. And now the country stands at a crossroads. This is not left versus right. This is power versus principle. This is the Constitution under pressure. Are we for the Second Amendment, or only when it's convenient? Are we for due process, or just blind obedience? You cannot pick and choose your liberty. You cannot trade rights for comfort. If freedom only fits your side, then freedom is already gone. We defended the right to bear arms in Kenosha. We said context matters. We said lawful possession is not a crime. So tell me now, why does lawful carry become a death sentence when the shooter wears a badge? That is not conservatism. That is contradiction. Rights are not personalities. They do not bend to tribal lines. They exist to restrain power, especially when power is armed. Are we for the Second Amendment, or not when it makes us uneasy? Are we for equal justice, or just the easy story? You cannot celebrate liberty one day and dismiss it the next, because freedom without consistency is not freedom at all. This is not about one city, one agency, or one moment caught on camera. This is about whether the right still means what it says. Are we for the Second Amendment without conditions?